Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I used to be the one they bragged about at dinner parties. Peggy's in finance, my mother would say, swirling her wine glass with pride. Top of her class. She's going places. I remember those words better than I remember her hugs. By 20, I was already interning at a bank that had its own skyscraper. By 21, I stopped sleeping. And by 22, I couldn't breathe unless it was in silence, away from fluorescent lights and performance reviews. The day I withdrew from college, I sat on the edge of my childhood bed, fingers trembling, and called my parents. Dad answered. Dropped out? He repeated, slowly. What happened? I'm burned out, I said softly. I can't keep pushing like this. A pause. Then a clipped, you'll regret this, Peggy. And the line went dead. They didn't ask if I was okay. They never did. From that moment, my seat at the family table was still physically present, but spiritually, gone. At Christmas, they asked Stefan about his internship at Deloitte, beaming. I told them I was teaching basic tech skills at the local center. My mother blinked and reached for more gravy. No luck with jobs yet, she said. I have one, I replied, trying to smile. I'm working with people with disabilities, helping them use phones and... Oh, she said, cutting in. So it's volunteering then? No, it's a paid program. Still, it's good you're keeping busy. Busy. That word again, as if I was a housewife passing time while the real achievers climbed ladders. I stopped explaining. Instead, I listened. I became wallpaper. Until one afternoon, in the small library room where I held my digital skills class, something shifted. A man in a wheelchair named Joe, who hadn't spoken much, raised his hand. I sent my first email, he said, grinning, to my son in Arizona. He called me back in tears. Something clicked inside me. I looked at Joe, eyes wet, face lit up like a child's. This was impact. That night, I opened my laptop and scribbled the words, USC FULNES, a platform for digital inclusion, a space where no one would be treated like I'd been, silent, invisible, forgotten. I didn't know it yet, but something was being born, something louder than any of their dismissals, something that would one day force them to look me in the eyes again and blink in disbelief. They stopped asking questions. To them, I'd become a distant relative they tolerated at holidays, someone who once shone but now flickered faintly in the background, like a dying bull they didn't have time to replace. But in that shadow, I started building. By day, I taught basic tech, how to send emails, use voice to text, apply for benefits online. By night, I coded in pajamas, sipping instant coffee and listening to jazz playlists on loop. I didn't have funding or followers, just stubborn lungs that refused to give out. I named it usefulness, because that's what I craved. Not applause, not pity, just purpose. By the third month, we had 12 users. By the sixth, there were 300. Then came a local article. Then a grant. Then a call from a state program manager who said, Peggy, we'd like to partner with you. Each success was a secret I folded like love letters under my pillow. At family dinners, I still passed the potatoes and listened to Stefan talk about fiscal models, while my mother smiled at him like he was sculpted by the gods. You still at that center, Peggy? Dad asked once, not bothering to look up from his roast. I am, I replied, but now I'm running a platform. A platform? He chuckled. Like a blog? Something like that, I murmured. There was no point explaining to people who didn't care to understand. I wasn't in their world anymore. But outside of their cold little circle, strangers were typing thank you emails, uploading testimonial videos, and sending in stories that made me cry at midnight. One of them was a woman named Isabel. Her voice cracked in the video as she spoke. My grandfather couldn't work a smartphone. He was isolated. Then someone at his senior center showed him a program, Usefulness. He video called me last week for the first time. Whoever made that, thank you. You changed our lives. I froze. My heart galloped. Isabel. As in Isabel, Stefan's fiancée. She didn't know I was the founder. But here she was thanking me. I stared at the screen, my eyes burning. So I was a ghost to my family. Fine. But somewhere out there, I was building a kingdom. And that kingdom was starting to whisper my name. I held the dress up to the light, fingers tracing the ivory laces like it was stitched with secrets. It wasn't flashy, nothing my mother would pick, but it was mine. Elegant, with a high collar and soft sleeves. A quiet defiance. The engagement dinner, Stefan and Isabel, loomed like a storm. My family hadn't invited me out of love. I was just a seat filler. But Isabel's video haunted me. Her words had seeped into my bones. Maybe it's time, I thought. Time to show up as more than the family's washed-out disappointment. I arrived 5 minutes early, which meant I waited alone at the table while chandeliers sparkled overhead. My mother swept in, kissed Stefan's cheek, and looked past me like I was wallpaper. She didn't comment on my dress, but her eyes did. Then came the dinner, the toasts, the polite laughs. And then, Isabel turned to me. "So Peggy," she said gently, unaware she was poking at a bruise. "What do you do now?" Forks paused mid-air. The room tilted. "I run a platform called Usefulness," I said evenly. "It teaches digital literacy to people with disabilities. We have over 97,000 users." Isabel blinked. "Wait, Usefulness, that's you." I nodded. She stood abruptly. "You're the one who helped my grandfather?" Her voice cracked as she walked around the table. "That was your work?" I managed a breath. "Yes." She threw her arms around me. "You changed our lives. Thank you. Thank you so much." And then it happened. Everyone in the audience stood up. Voices erupted. "Bravo, well done. This is such a good cause." Chairs scraped against marble. Strangers loudly applauded me. I glanced at my father. His mouth hung slightly open. My mother's wine glass trembled. Stefan stared like he'd seen a ghost rise from the ashes. And in that moment, beneath chandelier light and clinking silverware, I realized something. They hadn't just ignored me. They underestimated their daughter. They didn't speak right away. Not my parents, not Stefan. Applause faded, replaced by a strange, sterile silence that wrapped around the table like fog. I saw my father lean toward my mother, whispering something clipped and sharp. Her knuckles whitened around her glass. "You built that?" Stefan finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," I replied, "from scratch, while you were all busy pretending I'd vanished." A flush crept up his neck. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" "Would it have mattered?" I asked, locking eyes with him. "You made up your minds the moment I dropped out. You saw failure and stopped looking." My mother scoffed softly. "Peggy, you can't expect us to keep track of all your hobbies." "It's not a hobby," I snapped. "It's a lifeline. 97,000 people, state programs, real impact." The words hit the air like shattered glass. Isabel stepped in gently, voice warm. "Your daughter is remarkable. If my grandfather were here tonight, he'd be the one giving the toast." I saw something crack behind my father's eyes. Regret or pride, twisted too late. But I didn't need their applause anymore. Their silence said enough. A week passed, then two. Not a word from them. But something shifted inside me. I stood at the podium of the State Digital Access Conference, spotlight hot on my face, 1,000 strangers clapping as I spoke about usefulness. I was no longer the girl they pitied. I was the woman they had to listen to. After the event, I spotted my mother outside, alone. Arms crossed like she was shielding herself from the very wind. "I watched the broadcast," she said flatly. "People respect you." I tilted my head. I didn't build it for their respect, or yours. Her lips parted, searching for something to say. An apology, maybe. But I didn't need it anymore. "I hope," I added, "you tell people you're my mother. Because from now on, that's who you'll be known as." Her expression faltered, pride and regret tangling behind her eyes. But I walked away, my heels tapping like punctuation marks. That night, I updated the About Us page on Usefulness. For the first time, I added my name. Founder. Peggy Smith. No more shadows. No more silence. Let them all see who I really was.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.